Hey everyone, welcome and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
This is our third and our final episode for the year and for our 2023 Christmas series.
That's right.
So if you haven't listened to our first two, you should. We got to sit down with Blood Comes Cleansing and with Close Your Eyes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Christmas is practically here.
Dude, so right now when we're recording, it is officially 1 week until Christmas. Are you all dialed in and ready to go?
Not at all. I mean, I got lucky, and it's not like I got lucky. Everyone else on my team took the week of Christmas off.
Yeah.
And so I got the week before Christmas, and, Monday and Tuesday next week too. So, I got like a super long weekend, but I have to go back into work for 3 days to have another 3-day weekend,
Oh, yeah. That's still cool, though.
Yeah. No one will be there, and I'm sure I could get a lot of work done. So it'll be great. But are you ready for Christmas?
Mostly we've got a lot of stuff wrapped. So here's the deal, dude. Okay, this is like actually firing me up. So my wife, she's a teacher, and we just send each other Amazon lists. Like, here's what I want for Christmas. Like,
sure,
buy it.
Yeah.
When it goes on sale, buy. So she sends me her list, and it says my wife's name list.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, sweet. So I got in there, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, 200 laminating sheets, 48 dry erase markers,
Yeah.
18 pack of Crayola washable paint. I'm like, whatever. She says she wants it. So, dude, I bought the list, dude. I bought everything. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, she wants these, like, little magnets. I'm like, what's going on? This is the easiest shopping of the year. And then, like, so the gifts start coming, and she opens one of the boxes. She's like, what's this? I was like, oh, you weren't supposed to see that till Christmas. And she's like, I didn't want. What are you talking about? And I was like, you sent me the list. And she sent me her teacher, like, wish list.
Yep.
And I'm an idiot. Like, I don't even know how I didn't even think of this. And so I have
You're
literally.
like, she wants to do crafts, I guess. Like, she wants to color. She wants to glue.
100 little clothespins, like just random stuff that, like, what was I? So, anyways, and so then she's like, this is my real list, and it's like AirPods and like stuff that people actually want,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I am the biggest idiot to ever. So I'm wrapping it still, dude. I told her, I'm like, I'm wrapping all that.
I bought it. Yep.
You're gonna open up, 400 washable markers and 10, 12 packs of Crayola crayons. I don't care. And I think that list too is like a wish list, like community and parents like buy, like, this is what Mrs. Hogue wants, or whatever. And so I think I just wasted a bunch of money. So that's, but I'm ready, dude. I've got everything. I'm ready to go now because, like, I have so many gifts for my wife, and I've got gifts for my kids now, so I'm good to go.
Well, don't feel bad. My wife and I were watching Deck the Halls the other night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we were wrapping presents and talking about, like, oh, this kid's got this many, this kid's got this many. Like, and then we started talking about stocking stuffers, and we realized we forgot to buy a Santa Claus gift for Roslyn, our newborn, 9-month-old. And it's like, oh my gosh, how could we forget? Like, it's a week away. Like, we can't just, like, buy stuff online. And, like, at this point, if you're buying presents online, you're gambling with it being
100%.
At your house. But yeah, so we felt super bad. Like, part of us were like, she won't know she didn't get a gift from Santa. But it's like, but her brothers are gonna know.
Oh yeah, you could ruin it.
Like, was Rosalind bad this year? It's like, did you see how many poopy diapers she had?
Dude, you could, or it could ruin Santa Claus for them.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
the dog gets a stocking, the cat gets a stocking. It's like Roz gets
poor little
bummer.
Roz, dude.
We fixed it. We got it covered. So.
Good. Well, no, that's not bad, dude. It happens. I think my situation's way worse than yours. You fixed it.
Yours is worse. Mine was
way worse.
Lack of present. Yours was.
And my wife's look when she realized like what I did. She's like, serious? Like,
I don't want that.
You sent me the list. That's the exact list you sent me, and it said your name on it, dude. Anyways,
That's hilarious, dude.
yeah. Well, I think let's talk about why we're here. You know, Christmas is almost here, and we got to sit down with another awesome band, a newer band, a band that is, kind of killing it right now online, and it was super awesome to talk to them. We talked to Reformed.
We talked to Victor, Jake, and Tony.
Yep.
The three guys that make up Reformed. It was a good conversation. I've only ever chatted with Victor, so it was cool to meet the whole band and hear their Christmas stories and hear some of their background and how the band formed and stuff like that. So
I'm super excited for our listeners to get to know Reformed. So I think right now is the time where we need to just kick back and sit in front of the fire and turn on the Christmas cheer that is All Consuming Podcast this time of the year.
sure.
Hey guys, I'm Victor. I'm the vocalist of Reformed. That's my role. Lyricist, I guess, also.
Jake, you're up next.
Yeah, so my name is Jake Smith. I play guitar, and I also currently mix and master our music.
Sweet.
Word. And I am Tony, and I play guitar.
But no drummer.
And we both play computer drums.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
And no one needs bassists anymore.
yeah,
Yeah. We don't
Very
even have
good MIDI.
bass in our songs, so.
Hey, it sounds awesome though. So, the first question we always ask people when we bring them on the podcast is, what is the gateway that got you into heavy music? Because most people don't just start listening to screamy music or whatever. So we'll start with Tony. What was your gateway band into heavy music?
Oh, man. I would say probably the first heavy thing that I listened to was probably Linkin Park, years ago when Meteora came out. But the first really heavy band was Trivium, and I was absolutely obsessed with Trivium for a few years. I would say that was really the band that got me into heavy music.
That's awesome, dude. I remember I was Hybrid Theory. I must be a little older than you, but I remember I got Hybrid Theory, and dude, I thought it was the heaviest thing ever invented. At the time, and then you hear the next thing, you're like, oh man, dude,
Linkin Park's
there's more stuff out there.
yeah. Hybrid Theory is one of the best.
For sure.
I still go back and listen to that their old stuff, and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's still just so good.
Yeah. All right, Jake, how about you? What got you into heavy music?
So my dad had a big influence. Growing up, we always listened to old '80s hair metal, so Van Halen and stuff with some high speed, guitars and drums and just energetic music. But I remember I went to my first metal show when I was 10, and it just so happened to be War of Ages.
Wow.
And they were with Demise Euros and one other smaller band. I cannot think of it for the death of me right now, but pretty much from that moment on, seeing them live, and I got the drumstick afterwards too, because I was just a kid on the front row.
And you didn't become a drummer?
Didn't become a drummer. I mean, I still have that drumstick actually, but pretty much from that moment on, the rest is history. I mean, it was metal from there on. I see you have a Shadows of Security vinyl on the wall there. That's my number one album of all time, As I Lay Dying. They were probably my favorite band up until For Today started rolling around hot and heavy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the list goes on, but the big influences for me were definitely War of Ages and As I Lay Dying.
It's awesome.
Awesome. That's so cool. And last but not least, we've got Victor.
Yeah, in my case, I don't even know what music I was raised with. I'm an only child, and my parents are Brazilian, so it was a lot of Brazilian, contemporary music. And then when I was in elementary school, Guitar Hero 3 came out, and then, I got that, and then my entire iPod was just all the songs from Guitar Hero, and they're all rock songs. And
Was that the one that had Metallica on it?
it had One by Metallica.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So, like, I have a very strong memory of all the songs that are on specifically Guitar Hero 3, and then Guitar Hero World Tour, and then Guitar Hero Metallica came out, and then I became a Metallica fanboy, and I think I was 12, and Metallica went on tour, and it was like the last time they came to Ottawa, my city, was when I was 13, and my dad got me a ticket for my birthday, and we went, and it was Volbeat, Lamb of God, and Metallica.
Nice.
After that, I'm not sure how I evolved, but then I became I know why. In Ottawa, there was it's like a yearly like rock festival called the Blues Fest. I think it used to be blues, and then it evolved to rock,
Blues.
and now it's pretty much just like pop and rap.
Mhm.
It's really not worth going to anymore, honestly. But Iron Maiden was playing, and I knew Iron Maiden because they had that one song in
Run
in
to the
Guitar Hero
Hills.
3. It was Number of the Beast.
Oh. Yeah.
Funnily enough.
Mm.
But then Dream Theater opened for them, and I was
No.
blown away because they started off with "As I Am," and then the guitar solo comes in, and I was like, "What? This is insane!" And then they played "Home" as well, and the keyboards were insane. I'm a keyboardist; like I accidentally became a singer, so I had my phase of being obsessed with Jordan Rudess and his keyboard skills. And then, at some point in high school, I found Periphery. I actually don't remember how. Then I became obsessed with Periphery, and that was the same time that I was starting to want to start singing, and I wanted to pretty much imitate Spencer Sotelo vocals, and that's pretty much what I did. I just listened to what he did, and for a time I just sounded too much like him, and then I started singing other stuff, and then I kind of built up my own style. But then I guess 3 years ago was when I became Christian, and then I stopped caring about metal. So I don't really listen to metal anymore, or any music really. But
Victor doesn't like our
that
music,
way,
by the way.
all
No,
my
I'm just kidding.
inspiration for like vocal stuff. Well, I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
I was joking. I said Victor doesn't even listen to our music, so yeah.
Yeah, but then from there, I guess everything I picked up over time, I just incorporated in my brain, and I guess that leads to a pretty unique way of looking at music. I'm not like trying to sound like anybody, but the roots are just whatever metal I used to listen to.
That's actually pretty common for like vocalists in a band to stop listening to music. Like the guys in
general?
Emery, the guys in Emery, they stopped listening to music for like 10 years
Wow.
because they thought everything they kept writing sounded like another band, and everything they kept singing was like from another band. So they spent
Yeah,
time.
and even
like,
then, some of our melodies, I'm
doing
like,
it.
oh, that kind of sounds like this song. This
Dude,
happened a couple
yeah.
times for like our Reformed songs. But I don't know. For me, it's just like, I don't know. Since all the bands I grew up on are secular, and I started instantly caring about lyrics the moment I became Christian, and I just didn't connect with anything. If it wasn't just completely neutral, it was like really grating to me. So I just stopped really caring.
Yep.
And then at the same time, since I stopped listening to music, I also just didn't really look into Christian metal. But then, yeah.
And here you are in Christian
able
metal.
Here you
to,
are.
yeah, exactly.
So speaking of the band Reformed, how did that happen? So before we got on, I found out we've got someone from Canada, from Vegas, from Oklahoma. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So all over. So how did Reformed even come to be?
Yeah, so I probably have I'm like the, I guess, the central piece to
You're the
Reform
catalyst.
puzzle here, so I can explain. So just from my YouTube channel, I've been doing covers. Then eventually, I slowly, gradually turned my stuff into like doing Christian song covers. Jake, I'm not sure how he found me, but then he DM'd me just like, hey, do you want to do a metal cover of Endless Alleluia? I was like, okay, sure. And then that happened. We did a second one. Tony also hit me up at one point saying he wanted to do a collab, also a Christian. But then at this point, I had other bands that I was a part of. But then over time, I became like not too interested in writing any music if it wasn't Christian. So instead of having my focus be on like the secular lyrics, I began writing Christian music in non-Christian bands. So it was kind of like I wouldn't be as explicit as I could be at first. I would kind of reference different
Yeah.
parts of the Bible and then put them in the songs. And if you knew, you'd know, but if you didn't, you didn't know. But then over time, I just became more bold, I guess, to the point I was very, very explicit in the fact that it was Christian. But then, of course, that doesn't work in a non-Christian band. So ultimately, it came down to me being like, all right, well, I know exactly what I want to do and what I need to do and what I'm called to do. So at the same time that I was like talking with Tony about like certain songs that we would do, and I'd write very, very, very much Christian lyrics for them, and Jake at the same time, we're like, wait, well, I'm at this position here where I'm not in a band, but I have two separate projects that are doing pretty much the same thing. Hey, Tony, meet Jake. Let's do something.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
And that's how that happened. Like if you look at the 4 songs that we have released so far, it was 2 songs I was working on with Jake, 2 songs I was working on with Tony, and then we just like staggered them into the 4 releases so far, and they surprisingly fit well together. Yeah.
Yeah. If we pay close attention, we can figure out which one's which, huh?
Yeah, good luck.
Oh,
Probably. You might be able to. I will say that is like a really cool side of it too, though. Obviously, being that we're all in different locations.
Yeah.
You know, Jake will write a full song with drums and everything already, done, and I'll do the same on my end, and we'll just kind of send that to Victor, and then we'll all offer, kind of our opinion on it, or just contribute in our own way. Might change a couple things, but it's a really efficient process, and Victor is ridiculously fast at writing his parts, so it's like a win-win for everybody, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, I found you guys. Well, I've been kind of following Victor for a minute. Someone joined our Discord server and they're like, hey, you know the guy who sings on the Devil May Cry song or whatever? And I was like, no, I don't. And they're like, well, his name's Victor and he's a Christian. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, check out his side project. And it was like your band Shioru, if that's how you say it. And you only had one song out at the time called ITB. And I listened to it and like the first thing you say is in the beginning. And I'm like, dude, this is Genesis. And like the whole thing is like that. And I was like, that's really cool. So I've just kind of been, and then, I joined Victor's server and he joined ours and we've just been chatting on the side. So it's really cool seeing you guys, like seeing Reformed get created. And I can't wait to see like what happens. But I think on that note, we will transition to the Christmas spirit, right?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to move on to Christmas questions.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And I think I'll go in reverse order that Tyler just did. Okay. But our question is, what is your favorite Christmas tradition? Whether it's that you did as a kid or that you're doing now or that you want to do. So Victor, I'll ask you first.
Can you ask someone else first?
Yeah, I'll go.
I mean, I sure. Go ahead.
So I know I'm probably spilling the beans for Victor, but he's a new dad, so he's got a little boy at home. But for me, I've got a 4-year-old son and a 1-year-old daughter. And pretty much since having kids, Christmas has like changed because it's no longer about, you. Well, I mean, of course it's about, Christ being born and
Right.
from the Christian side of things, but just from,
Right.
Being a dad and having kids, it just opened your eyes to caring for little people. I don't know. It's really cool. And just all the things that we're doing now are just, they're going to be new experiences for them for like the rest of the time they live with me. So we put all the Christmas ornaments on the tree earlier a couple weeks ago, knocked that out. I think that's a cool tradition.
Yeah.
Just getting to experience Christmas with the 2 kids is really cool. That's just something I look forward to doing every year. So
Yeah, it definitely is a huge shift. Like, and you look, depending on how your Christmas were as a kid, you look and you're like, dang, like, I kind of understand my parents.
Yeah.
Dragging me out to look at Christmas lights or whatever, you know.
Absolutely.
So it's so cool to see that, and then Christmas morning, and it's cool to see that from your kids, But
yeah, for sure.
awesome.
It's definitely different from a parent perspective.
Yeah.
Like you said, you see what your parents went through having to deal with
Right.
you. So
Yeah. So Tony, how about you go next?
All right, we'll give Victor a little more time here. I I don't have kids, so my answer I feel like is going to be more boring than these guys. But yeah, I don't know. Just growing up, just being with the family, man. We would generally do like midnight mass, and yeah, just it was just exciting, just being with the family. Um, Wake up, breakfast the next day, presents, the whole nine as far as that side of things go. Um, yeah, but I will say, hearing from these guys, definitely excited to be a dad one day and have that shift from that to something a little bit more selfless. So yeah,
Enjoy your time, like.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted Jake to go first because he actually has like kids that have had a Christmas before, so he knows what he's doing as of like 3 years. But yeah, my son was born almost 3 months ago, so it'll be his first
Ooh.
Christmas. And I mean,
And
growing
he
up,
won't remember it.
yeah, well, he'll have the pictures and he'll
That's right.
That's right.
see them and
Pictures.
see the kid. That's what happened.
Yep.
But yeah, in my case, since I came from a non-Christian family, Christmas was entirely secular. So, I mean, the very typical like be together with family, open the presents, Secret Santa, stuff like that. And I became Christian in the year 2020, where everyone was locked away with each other. But I had found Christ in that year, so it felt like it was special to me. It was my first Christmas where it was actually like Christmas, right? And I was the only Christian I knew essentially. So even though I was still spent it with my family, like it felt like it was like a Christmas just with me and the Lord together, and it was like awesome. But then with that, I kind of don't have any traditions associated with Christmas because I don't have any Christian related traditions apart from just opening presents and stuff like that. But
Leaving milk and cookies out for Santa.
yeah, I remember doing that a couple of years, but I figured out that Santa wasn't real pretty quick, and I just kind of held on to get an extra present for a little bit. But I was like, hey, I knew my dad was the one eating the cookie and the milk. Like, I kind of figured that out quick.
Gary, what are we gonna do with all of our young listeners that Victor just ruined it for? 'em?
Yeah, sorry guys, Santa's not real.
My pastor's daughter listens to us religiously, dude.
My apologies. But yeah, so then now I'm married, I have a kid, and I'm like, what Christmas traditions are we gonna do? So I'm like, me and my wife were just talking, like really excited to come up with traditions. I know from her side of the family, like something that's really important is that the whole family gets together and her grandpa does like a service at home. So worshiping together, then he preaches on Christ's birth and the significance of that. And cool. I see that, and I'm like, I want to be that for my family. And so I'm going to really emphasize like an intellectual, historical aspect to the Christmas tradition. But then on top of that, like we already have a tree decorated, and we already did a Christmas photo shoot with my son, and we're going to post that soon. I feel like every year we're going to add a new tradition. So I think we bought stockings, and you can't really do much with a 0-year-old, but as he grows up, I think we'll figure out fun things to do.
Yeah, as a dad who's had 3 small children around the holidays, don't forget to put your baby in the stocking and take pictures.
Oh,
or else your wife will
a good
remind
one.
you about the one kid you didn't do,
That's a great idea. I'll make sure to remember that.
Should we move on to
All
the
right.
next question?
Yeah, the next question, and we had to, we did a little research. We saw the songs you guys chose, so we're pretty stoked about this. What songs, Christmas songs, did you guys bring for us to talk to? And we're going to start with Jake. I think that's the solid way to go, learning from the last time,
Okay.
right?
Sure. Yeah. So
Okay.
I chose the For Today cover, if you want to call it, of O Come Emmanuel.
Yeah.
I found that song whatever year it came out, 2017, maybe 16. It's a good song. I'm not super big into Christmas carols. I don't typically listen to those on a daily basis when it gets around Christmas time. I'm more of an August Burns Red, Carol of the Bells type guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be cliche and choose that, and so I went with the second best and chose some For Today. So I think it portrays a great message, gets me in the holiday spirit a little bit, and Maddie brings it. So there's really not a whole lot more to it other than it's just really
Yeah.
enjoyable to listen to, and then the the lyrics are sound. So
Yeah, I love that you don't even remember it's a Christmas song till it's over when you
Right.
hear like church bells and
Yes.
like and you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this was a Christmas cover.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's totally a For Today song, especially like when Maddie's like, oh come, and Maddie, you know, it does his whole like
Talk.
that was the
scream
worst thing I've
thing.
ever done in my life. But the talk scream,
Dude,
it's
I
like
miss those guys
it's
so much.
good. I know.
They were the best.
In an age of all these bands like getting back together, you would think like they got to, right? Maybe.
I mean, there's so many bands coming back together. I saw them on their farewell tour twice, and just to because I knew I was going to miss it so much. And dude, if they went on tour again, I would travel 400 miles to go see them.
Yeah.
So I hope they do. If you're listening, Maddie and the rest of For Today, please.
This is it. Let's do it.
Do it
Yeah,
for Jake.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, for Jake. All right, let's go to Tony. What song did you choose?
All right. Yeah, I'm like Jake. I don't listen to a ton of kind of Christmas music. So I had to do a little digging on this one, but I actually listened to some songs, and I really liked The King by Wolves at the Gate. Big fan of that band in the first place, but that song in particular was just really cool. The riffs, the guitar riffs were solid. The chorus is huge. Just a really, really well-written song, really well-performed song. But also, Jake mentioned August Burns Red in their Christmas music. I actually just saw August Burns Red live yesterday, and
What? Shoot, that's awesome.
part of their encore, they opened with Carol of the Bells. And
That's cool.
or they
Nice.
they played that, and then afterwards they're like, "Yo, this is the first time we've ever done any of our Christmas music live," which I feel like is probably a lie, but I thought that was cool, and that was actually a really cool experience. So anyway, that was cool.
That would be cool. We've always talked about like, could we go to Pennsylvania and go to Christmas Burns Red? How sweet would that
Dude,
be?
that would be sick. I grew up
You know.
like 30 minutes from Lancaster, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
So,
Yeah,
always
that'd be
thought-
so sick.
Always thought that was cool that they're from there.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, the Wolves at the Gate. Did that and For Today's O Come Emmanuel come off the Midnight Clear album?
Yes.
Yeah.
That compilation is legit.
Who even put
Like,
that out?
we need more of those.
So that was like a
Solid
solid state thing, right?
Solid
Was
State.
it Solid State?
Yeah, it says Solid State and Friends.
Okay.
Because For Today's on there and Maddie Mullins is on there.
I feel like that whole album was like so underrated. Like it never really.
Yeah.
It's even hard to find on Spotify now. So there's a lot of bangers on there.
Yeah, for sure. We need more albums or artists like working together and doing Christmas releases. That'd be sweet.
Yes. Yeah.
So the Wolves at the Gate EP, right? The Christmas EP, Lowborn EP. You know how the King's on there too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you guys think, because I think there is a difference. If there's a difference between that EP version and the one from 2014, because the King actually came out before that various artist mix. Like they did it in like a year or so before that, just as a single.
Got it.
But I swear, if
I'd
you
have to go
listen
back and
to
check
them,
that out.
Yeah, I'll have to go back.
I think they have different mixes or something like that.
Yeah. It's
But yeah.
crazy. The common theme, like throughout every interview we do every year, most people are like, yeah, I don't really listen to Christmas music. What's the deal with that? Musicians are just
Yeah.
like, nah,
I mean, all I want for Christmas. I mean, obviously everybody's got to listen to that. At least
Yeah,
200 times. Maybe some Justin Bieber on the side.
Oh,
I think it's also because you can't escape it. Like you walk around, like this
everywhere.
time of year, you're getting
just walk
blasted
outside.
with like bad Christmas
true.
music.
Yeah.
that's true.
You don't have to seek it out.
I worked in the mall, and they'd play Christmas
Oh,
music
no.
Yeah.
on loop.
It's like not even Halloween yet, and you're already listening to
Yeah.
Jingle Bells.
Yep.
It's cool. All right, last one, Victor. What do we got?
Yeah, so I went with the unorthodox pick. Well, very orthodox, I guess. It's Handel's Messiah, but it's the one section of the masterpiece, For Unto Us a Child is Born, which is just Isaiah 9:6 in song form. And I said, I don't really listen to music, but I'm more into music for like the very just mentally nourishing part of it. And there's just something about classical music that is it's so complex and awe-inspiring And like if you listen to opera, I mean, nowadays like we're more used to contemporary voices. We kind of make fun of the style of vocal opera, right? But you listen to the melodies, and I'm just like, I could never sing even in my normal voice that, not let alone like putting on the actual opera voice. It's actually really impressive. Wonderful. Plus the strings and counselor.
I tried in the car, man. I couldn't do it.
It's a really beautiful, like the full thing, like the full piece. Not just talking about the "For unto us a child is born" part, but that's obviously very much Christmas. And I mean, what I find amazing about the song itself, it really emphasizes the part where, wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And I mean, if you look at what the verse is itself, it is the prophecy of the coming Messiah. It is a man, a child that will be born, and not only that, but the entirety of the Godhead is invoked, proclaiming that this child that will be born, who will save the world and have the government on his shoulders, is not only mighty God, but wonderful Counselor, the Holy Spirit, everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. If you look at Colossians 2:9, 8 or 9, the fullness of the Godhead bodily, all encapsulated in one verse, in one prophet's book from 700 years before Christ was born. It's just such an incredible verse, and the repetition in the song, in the one piece of the whole masterpiece, and the ebb and flow, the up and down, and the dynamics of the piece up to the climaxes in the song are just incredible. And I wish more music was like this, honestly. Just very deep and very complex and awe-inspiring.
Dynamic.
Very dynamic, yeah.
Yeah, so when you messaged me that was the song you picked, I was like, well, I know For Unto Us a Child is Born, but I don't know this one. And so I pressed play there while I was working, and like an hour and a half later, I was like, oh, it's still on. You know, like I've just been working with it in the background, and like I felt like I was pretty productive. Like I felt like my brain was working pretty good, but I like that kind of stuff in the background. Just more like I don't know. When you listen to metal all the time and like metalcore, hardcore, like it's hard to put that in the background because you just want to like throw elbows and, you know, break your desk while you're working. So it's much easier to like have like, especially stuff without words. But this one, you know, the opera, you know, it's so quiet and it builds and gets louder and stuff. And it's just it's a nice experience. But like when I was in high school, one of our teachers, he let you come into his classroom at lunch to do schoolwork or whatever, just whatever. And I'd always go in there and he'd always be playing classical music. And so I've always liked classical music, but I've never been like, I need to find Christmas classical music. And I had no idea this even existed. But
bro, kids come into my classroom at lunch and they listen to Impending Doom. You either like it or you get out.
No, they don't.
I'm serious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Heck yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, the cool thing about Messiah is because it's literally all KJV verses, or I mean, there's certain parts that are from the Common Book of Prayers, like the Anglican hymnal. But it tells the entire story of Jesus, every single part of it, and each section is one verse, and the melodies change, but the lyrics are repetitive, so it lets you meditate on each verse for like 3 minutes at a time. So it engages your mind because you get drawn by the beauty of the music. Then at the same time, you get to think about each single verse for like 3 minutes at a time, let's just say. And it's like it builds everything up, and you see a whole narrative of the story of the Messiah. And it's precisely the message for Christmas, but it's also for year round.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think your guys' Christmas song picks like kind of highlight Reformed, like the band, because you got these two like metalhead like hardcore guys, and you got Victor, who's very technical. Even the music you liked as a kid growing up, talking about like Periphery and stuff, like
Very technical.
So yeah, so you have like I feel like vocally you're being very, I don't know, clean and technical and sharp. But yeah,
lyrically,
I like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a big nerd, and that's why I like that.
Jake and I just like breakdowns, man.
Yeah, pretty much the 808s and just like extremely like low tuned guitars. That's pretty much how I think. all the time. So I get into the opportunity, but it starts hurting my head a little bit. But
You go into his brain, just hear.
just all over the place.
That's awesome.
You go into Tony's head, you just hear like the guitar's going super fast.
Not even, dude. Although I was like, for probably like 4 or 5 years straight, Periphery was like my favorite band as well. So I think that's probably actually how I first like heard about Victor, was just like his birthday covers, and I was like, dang, it would be sick to work with this dude one day, and here we are. That's cool.
That's cool. Some nights we just like Gary and I chill, and he just shows me stuff, and he showed me all of Victor's stuff, but he's really been pushing Reform, and he pushed Reform right when your stuff came out, and it's good, man. It's so awesome. We're super excited for everything you guys are gonna do. Yeah, dude. So
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, so a closing question, like what's the band up to in the next year, and what's the best way our listeners can support you?
Considering everyone's schedules, I remember like at one point in the middle of this year, we're like, oh, we're gonna get a full album out by the end of the year, and I mean, we all have jobs, and 2 of us have kids, and it's like, okay, well, we're gonna have an EP by the end of the year. Okay, well, then we're gonna have one song released by the end of the year, that kind of ties together the last 4 releases into one EP. It'll make sense once it's out, but we have already started the writing process for like a full length that we'll be doing like singles releases over like for during 2024. But yeah, ultimately the idea is just there are so many topics that I love to write about and put into song form. A lot of the lyrics are already done. I have an idea of what to put the songs into, but with Jake and Tony writing instrumentals, it just ends up becoming cohesive because they're tied by the lyrics. So even if you look at like the 4 songs that we released, it's kind of like the order by which you would evangelize to someone. So Smoke of Their Torment was the reality of judgment and the reality that none are righteous, no, not one, and that you are to be the recipient of that judgment. And then it gets left on a cliffhanger because like, okay, well, now what? And then Reprobate comes in, slaps you even harder in the face and says, look, this is the state of you, reprobated. And then you think, okay, what do I do now? And then you look at Martyr and you see the plight of, it's mostly Paul's writing and also David's messianic psalm. But then you look at that and say, okay, well, this is the life that needs to be lived. And within that, there's the message that it's for Christ. And then the Conqueror is the victory at the end, and that's taken from the Trinity Psalter hymn. That's just, it's absolutely magnificent. And that's my favorite song. And it's not my lyrics. It's written in the 1800s. So, first of all, there's no copyright anymore. It's public domain, so we can take it. But second of all, I wish I wrote lyrics that deep. But it really ties it together. And then our final track like is going to be just, I guess, the summary of all 4. And then coming into the new year, there's a lot of different topics that I'd like to get into, and we don't have to necessarily do them in order of a particular message because we kind of did that with this EP. But I'm really excited about the different topics, and I'm not going to spoil anything, even though I want to. But there's a lot of really, really cool things, and I'm super excited about what's going to happen.
In addition to what Victor was saying, we also have some really cool features lined up for the record next year. So I'll just throw that out there. I won't spoil any of it, but yeah.
That's exciting, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have some big things coming. I think 2024 is going to be a big year for Reformed. I truly think and believe that this project's been anointed, by God, and He's got His hand on this music, and it's reaching people. I mean, people will message our page and talk about how they kind of fell away from Christ and they've got plugged back into a church, or they decided to follow Christ, and it's a really cool experience getting to see all of this firsthand. And just the effect that it has on, people that, might not ever listen to Hillsong or, Bethel music or Elevation worship or whatever. It's like there's an audience out there that listens to strictly, screamo music. And the fact that we're able to reach those people and shine the light on Christ is fantastic. And just these 2 guys being able to work with them and be able to put, our music together to praise a holy God, I mean, there's nothing I would rather do. And so, even though this is a hobby, kind of for all three of us, it's so enjoyable. It's a blast working with these guys. And I know for 2024, I think we have a catalog of how many songs, guys? 8 or 10, maybe 12.
9, something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got songs we're working on. Tony and I
Jake
worked on.
just dropped a little demo this morning that had Victor and I going like, oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool, man. So definitely, we're definitely just getting started. As cliche as that sounds, but just
Big things coming. Big things coming
soon.
Yeah.
Yes,
Smash
sir.
that subscribe button. But
So for sure though, so we're getting a song by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is
that's
that
the plan.
Is that what it
Yes.
sounds
Hopefully.
like?
Yeah, it should.
If I send-
EP.
If I send Jake the files in enough time, then we'll have a song by the end of the year.
And I
Yeah,
just had to record the screams. That's the last thing for me.
Dude, that's cool.
But yeah,
Looking forward to it.
what he touched on about because honestly, for me, when I started this band, I knew that my original goal of being like a secular artist was like, I want to get big, I want to get numbers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly, I stopped caring about that, and then I realized, okay, well, this platform that God gave me, like my YouTube channel and Bury the Light, boosting up my numbers and inflating my Spotify account. That's there for a reason, and I can use that platform now for something. So, the ultimate purpose behind Reform truly is a desire that goes beyond the music and beyond even the genre of metal. It's the desire to get the gospel out and to not hold back any punches. Partly because of my personal dismay, I guess, at the softening of the gospel, not just in music, but in like the most popular preachers.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, not even getting to like just like blatant false teachers and stuff. But I see the message of the gospel being soft, and then that leads to people not having understanding of what the Bible actually says, and so there's false conversions, and that's something that I entirely am disappointed at. So I realized that the combination of my platform, my musical abilities God gave me, the connections that I have with Tony and Jake, and my ever growing knowledge of Scripture because of my desire to study, all that together is a perfect recipe for what is theologically deep, unapologetically Christian metal music that can actually accomplish something by the grace of God. And we have seen reception of people that like now I talk to on a regular basis. Like I have a Discord that we have plenty of like scriptural biblical discussions and stuff like that. And I've done Bible studies weekly up until when my son was born because I got a little too busy. But people actually genuinely coming to the faith, and I'm very skeptical about people who make professions of faith because I know how fickle it can be. But in these cases, because the full gospel has been presented, I can be confident that it's actually true conversions, and just seeing what they understand and what their new desire to learn, it makes it clear that the Holy Spirit is actually working in people and through us and through the music. And it's all glory to God because, I mean, even lyrically, I'm not the one writing it. If you look at our songs, it's literally Bible verses, every single line, and then maybe a little bit of commentary here and there, but like it's all Bible verses, and that word does not come back void, and it's incredible to see that. And generally, it's just a desire to have not just sermons be theologically deep, but music be theologically deep. And I think there's a desire for that from people.
Absolutely.
I myself had that urge to find Christian metal music that was theologically deep, and so I just decided that why don't I fill that role and try and do that and inspire others to do the same thing. And yeah, I'm just grateful for everything, and we're gonna keep doing this.
Awesome. So you've probably heard me say, if you ever listen to our podcast, I complain about bands that drop singles, but for you guys, it seems to really be working for you guys. Like every time a single comes out, like you guys get tons of plays. Our friends in Kingdom Core like share your videos and get a bunch of people arguing on the internet about God. and like it's super awesome to see it like take off like that and get really popular. And so even though I complain about singles like Memphis May Fire, you know, they've released an album last year that was like 9 singles, and then they released the 10th song and they're like, here's our album. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
That's next year.
But hey, I think that's just the way the world's going, and you know, but
It is.
It's just how it is. But so if you hear me complain, just
It's
let
about
me
it's
complain.
about us.
Well, but the thing with that is just that, like, in our cases, we do we finish one song at a time, because just based on everyone's schedule, that's what we're able to do. Like, if we were to, okay, let's get the full album ready and then we'll release it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll never hear from us for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that
what we
was
did
the
is,
thing.
like,
Like Tony posted about the other day. Tony on our Instagram post, he said that we'd never all met in person before. Like, we haven't. Like, you know, Tony lives in Las Vegas. You know, Victor lives in Canada, and I live in Oklahoma. So this is strictly internet band. You know, like, so if we were in like a normal band situation, like, yeah, sure, we could probably go into a studio and pay, you know, $5,000 and knock out an album in 3 weeks.
Right.
Or we keep all of our full-time jobs, spend time with our family and our kids, and put out a single every once in a while. So I would love to do a full-blown album. I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't like, you know, when a CD, like whenever, not a CD, sorry, that's dated. When an album has 7 singles and then there's 10 songs or whatever the case may be. But I think an album is something we may have in the future. You know, a 10 or 12 song, just full blown album, just drop it on you. But in the meantime, there will be some singles. So
This year's also
we're here
been like
for
a pretty big learning experience for us too, because we didn't go into this with like the idea of we're going to do a 5-song EP this year and then we'll put out a record next year. We just kind of just started saying like, all right, here's our music. Let's just start putting songs out, and then it's kind of organically evolved into what it kind of seems like a fitting and appropriate EP that kind of makes sense. But it just kind of lucked out that way. I think we would all agree. So yeah, I mean, it's been a really cool learning experience. I think next year it'll probably go a lot smoother, but yeah, we're just stoked on everything that's happened up to this point and all the support we've gotten.
Cool.
Yeah, we kind of made it work, and we were looking at like planning out like the full album release of what song's going to be the singles, but then there's like the final song of the album, which is the one we're going to be releasing now, like the 5th one, and it's like, oh well, it's much longer than the rest, and some parts sound like Smoke of the Torment a little bit, so what are we going to do? Like, oh well, we're going to reference it and then have it all be together and tie the whole I guess EP up now. Okay, we're doing an EP. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're going to release that before the end of the year, or should we do it in January? Because usually December releases. Well, no, but we should wrap up the year and have it done. Okay, cool. All right, well, now we got to finish the song.
Yeah.
So it's just like we're kind of figuring it out as we go. And I mean, I'm happy with how it's coming along, but when it comes to singles releasing, I think it's actually good for marketing, I guess. You release one song, and then that gets pushed out an algorithm, and then 2 months later, next song, boom. Next song, boom. If you do an album, it's like, okay, well, a couple singles from the album are going to get pushed out. The other ones are maybe buried. Who knows? Nowadays, music kind of works differently. Like with like Spotify, you just like get put on playlists and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with newer bands, like if a new band came out and was like, look, we have 3 albums, like people aren't really going to check them out. But if you just say, hey, we're a new band, here's one song, they're more likely to be like, well, what do they sound like?
Yeah.
You know, it's like if August Burns Red was dropping singles all the time, everyone would be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Where's our album?
For
like,
sure.
we know you guys can do albums.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's just like a ramping up thing. It's like a palette not cleanser, but like, what do you think
Teaser.
of this sound? And then you guys can go, well, that song really took off. People like that sound. We can, you know.
Yeah. Baby steps. Baby steps.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's great because, I mean, it allows, like you guys said, people from all over to collaborate, make music, and we're getting more new music and access to it than ever before, right? And so we get to have bands like Reformed or other bands that are doing it DIY, you know? And so it's so cool. Yeah. Awesome, guys.
Go ahead. You should close this out, Tyler.
Well, I wanted to ask him one thing. We might be able to put it in. I wanted to ask you guys, so how'd you come up with the name Reformed, and why'd you guys choose it?
Oh, you
Yeah,
Victor.
so we were like brainstorming a bunch of names, and we had honestly no idea. I mean, at first when I was like wanting to make music with Jake and music with Tony, I was just like, okay, well, let's just release it under our names, like Victor Borba, comma Jake Smith, and Victor Borba, comma Tony. And then we're like, wait, now that we're all three, we can't do three names. It's kind of too much. Okay, let's come up with a band name. Let's see what we can do. And we there's a bunch of ideas floating around. We wanted something simple that wasn't taken, and it's hard to find something. My wife said, "Oh, what about Reformed?" I was like, that's actually a really good name. Like, that's very powerful. And it kind of tied in with the idea that like things need reformation, in the sense that like if Christian music is becoming diluted and sermons are being diluted, that needs to be reformed and go back to what it should have been, like the apostolic, like expository, like form of preaching and hymnals that are like really theologically deep. Let's reform back to that. So the way if you look at like the mission statement on our page, that's what it's focused on. It's like, let's reform the metal genre, or even specifically the Christian metal genre. And people ask like, oh, is it talking about Reformed theology? I now am like, it's funny because when we made the band, I wasn't Reformed, but a bunch of Reformed people messaged me like, hey, like, are you Reformed? And then I got into like a bunch of like debates and discussions with people online, and then eventually I actually got convinced of the position. So I'm actually like Reformed Presbyterian now. And it has nothing to do with the band name. It's funny, but
Right.
Interesting.
You should have named
Yeah.
your band Lutheran. See what happens.
Southern
but I mean, it's like-
Baptist.
Reformed is just like a really powerful like term,
sure.
right? And
It is.
it's in scripture too. Like there's pastors that say like reform your ways and stuff like that. What the meaning though is just like we have to constantly reform ourselves and return back to what the true faith and true method of the faith is. So it's people are like, oh, like, we need to find Calvinist metal. It's like, well, if what I'm saying is theologically sound, you're gonna actually have it be accurate and correct, and you'll end up aligning with it. If I say something that's heretical, I mean that's not gonna happen. So, but like whatever position, like whatever denomination you are, you're gonna look at our music and be like, yeah, this is theologically sound.
All right, let me write that down. Calvinist metal. All right.
It's only appropriate. It's only appropriate that even our name would like cause some controversy online just from the start.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, no controversy with us though, for sure.
Cool.
That's awesome, guys. So we really want to thank you guys for coming on, spending time here. We are looking forward to everything that is to come with Reformed. You guys are awesome dudes, so we're definitely going to push people to follow you guys, and stoked for the single to come out to complete this 5-song EP. So thank you guys, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
Christmas.
Thank you.
God
Thank you
bless
so much.
It's so cool that like in this day and age that we can have a band with members that have never met. Like, I think that's so crazy. Like, obviously in 2023 it's normal, but like the bands, when you think of, it's like friends get together, make a band, they jam in a garage or whatever.
Yeah.
And like this is just, it's so cool because I think, and we've said this before in the podcast, I think this is allowing for more music to be made, right? Technology nowadays. And so we're getting bands like Reformed, or bands like Our Boys and Unworthy and stuff like that. These kind of bands that are able to just send these pieces of music to each other and make bands and release it on streaming services. It's so cool.
Yeah, more bands and more frequent.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed talking to these guys and like seeing it from that perspective. And Victor Borba is pretty crazy. Like, he has a pretty big following online, and so it's cool that he has this project now with Reformed, and love their mission, love what they're trying to do. So cool.
Yep. I'm super excited for people to, if you've never heard them and now you're curious, like, I'm excited to see more people get into them and, I don't know, see them be the next For Today.
Oh, that'd be sweet. No, and it was so cool talking about traditions too. And it's just because we're getting older and we're like the same age or in the same sort of age as these bands that we're interviewing, to where it's like talks about kids and like the traditions are all about their kids and they're excited about that, and it's a really cool aspect, and like I totally relate with that.
Yep.
And it's awesome.
So I think in closing, this is the finale of the year even.
This is it, dude.
Last one for 2023. So thank you, listeners, for listening to us all year long. We hope you guys have a great end of the year, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we will see you next year.
Next year. And you know what that means, Gary?
What?
That means we got to put out our top albums of 2023.
Album of the Year episode. We should do that next.
Coming out. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you for the support. You guys are awesome.
Thank you for listening.